Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I'm joined by Ranier. Ranier, how's it going?
What's up, Henry? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, indeed. It is Friday, July 7th, 2023. And like we did a couple weeks ago, we're going to have a pretty freeform little conversation here. No set topic. So, Ranier, what's on your mind?
What's good? Let's see. The Comic Sauce Podcast Lightning Round.
Yes.
What's new? Comic-Con is right around the corner. That's definitely top of mind for
Yes.
sure.
Same.
And
Same
we have a
here.
group of people that are going, including all of our families. And some people are making plans to draw out their itinerary for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are days away. It is so close. I can taste it. That is funny what you mentioned, though, the preparation. It seems like every SDCC attendee has a different level of preparation. Some attendees just go in almost blind, like no prep, just take it in, and some are like, get the spreadsheets out every day. You're mapping out panels and offsites and whatnot. um yeah, it is fun to see the differences, right? And amongst our group, I think we are seeing those differences. Some of us are under preparing, some of us are over preparing.
That's an interesting
So
scale
yeah,
you
right.
actually mentioned that like there are the people that go into it cold and there are the people that like are completely prepared. So like
Yeah.
if that's a spectrum from like 1 to 10, 10 being most prepared and 1 going completely cold, where would you say you're sitting at right now?
Where am I sitting at? Yeah, I think I'm definitely in the prepared camp. I think I tend to be a little bit more prepared than your average attendee. Um, yeah, I definitely map stuff out. Like literally today, with some of the programming being announced.
Yeah,
I
they just released like new days, right? I think they
mm-hmm,
released like Thursday
yep.
and they just released Friday today.
Yes, yes, they did. So I was updating my Google calendars, and I was putting in panels that I might be attending and just like kind of mapping it out. So yeah, I'm definitely in that prepared side of things. That said, uh, I like the approach of being prepared ahead of time, but then when the convention actually happens, I like to have the mentality of, well, anything can happen, and all this preparation, you, I could potentially just throw out the window. Things can
Yeah.
change. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I sit somewhere in the middle. I do look at programming and I just eyeball it. But I think what I prepare for most is the logistics of it all, like
Mm-hmm.
traveling,
Yeah.
getting to the hotel, making sure we have like backpacks and chairs and things to do while we're waiting in line.
Yeah.
I think that's what I most prepare for. And then programming, because we wait in line so much just to get like, for example, like the day of, whether it's preview night or whatever your first day is, you know, chances are we're spending time in line just waiting to get in. And that's when I dig into like the programming guide and say, okay, this is what I want to do for today.
Mm-hmm.
So I I try not to over prepare because Comic Con, like like it can throw us curveballs.
Yep.
There are things that show up that are not scheduled. There are things that are scheduled that, move or get canceled. So yeah, a lot of times it's, being able to like think on your feet and, what you prepared for and what you planned, you kind of have to throw that out the door and go to plan B or even plan C or D.
Yeah.
Because, you never know what can happen. And
Right.
that's not even considering like the times that you go and you need to go eat.
Yep.
or even take a little bit of a rest because it is such a tiring
Yeah.
it is such it's a tiring week, man.
Yeah, it
I
is.
feel like yeah, I feel like I come away from Comic-Con like malnourished, sleep deprived,
Yes.
and because it's like you want to do everything, but it's impossible. There's no way you can do it.
Yeah. Eat, rest. What is
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
do that during Comic-Con?
Usually eating it's usually like it usually boils down to like, okay, I guess I'm gonna get nachos and hot dogs from the convention stands and
Yeah, yeah,
just to stop the grumbling in my stomach, you know?
yeah. Well, this year we will be with family. So I think probably more so this year than years past. We
Yeah.
will have to consider that, whereas before I might be like, I'm just going to starve myself. I'm going to go on 0 hours of sleep. I might need to dial that back a little bit,
I feel like those were
considering the
like
little one.
I feel like those were like the college years of Comic-Con where
Yes.
you could get by with the bare necessities. Like you could not eat for an entire day, right? And
Yeah.
like maybe
Yeah.
get maybe a couple hours of sleep if you're lucky. But
Yeah.
yeah, this last year was my first time taking my kids to Comic-Con. My wife, our entire family went. And
Yep.
it's certainly a different experience,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
it's different and it's fun. Like I think what I enjoyed most was actually seeing Comic Con through my kids' eyes, much in the same
Yeah.
way as like re-experiencing like Disneyland. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
it's it's a different mindset, it's a different kind of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's exciting to me that like my kids are excited for Comic Con.
Yeah. 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 I agree. It's different. It's not worse. It's just different. It's a different kind of
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to pay more attention to like, where are you staying? How often are
hmm
you going to take breaks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are the kids going to have a meltdown? Are they going to be impatient sitting in line? Like, are they going to want to go to the panels I want to go to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything last year like worked out great. Like we got a good variety of everything we all liked. And so we had a great experience. I think it's going to be just the same this year. I think we're going to have a fun experience this year.
Right
Yeah.
on.
And we're going to have all of our families together, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be wild. Yeah, the family factor is gonna be significant. It'll definitely change things. Another big factor is what we kind of talked about last time, and that's the writer's strike. The writer's strike and the potential uh, actors strike could change
Oh, there's
things
a
up
potential
even
actor
more.
strike as well.
Yeah, that is possible
Is that in
also.
solidarity with the writer strike,
Yeah,
or
that's
is there some negotiation thing that the actors are going through that's separate from the writer
yeah.
strike?
The little I understand of it is, yeah, it's more of a solidarity move.
Mm.
But either way, we're looking at a potential huge impact on the convention. So yeah, even though they're announcing the programming, what you see, on the Comic-Con site right now, that could change like next week, right? Because of what's going on
Yeah.
out there. So even more reason to just sort of expect the unexpected. Things can change big
I'm
time.
actually okay with a little less celebrity presence because I feel like over the years there's been this big like, there's been this big drive for like celebrity chasing, and it just makes it, I don't know, it makes things just more bonkers.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like if there's a little less of that, it'll allow for other things to like surface up and get, more time to shine, like, I don't know, comic books.
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't it be cool if, all those people who would have gone to Hall H end up just checking out cool like indie comics panels or something like that, right? Um, Reality though is those people will probably go to the exhibit floor. That's the thing I'm a little concerned about. I'm worried that the already crowded exhibit floor is going to be even more crowded. So
I don't
we'll
know.
see. We'll see.
The exhibit floor, I always just expect it to be crowded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it being a little bit more crowded, I feel like is not going to feel any more different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good approach. Yeah, just go in expecting that you're going to be packed in like sardines. And then if it gets a little bit more packed, well, you were expecting it, so no big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's Comic-Con in general, not just the exhibit floor. And the whole thing is just pretty
Yeah, it's
wild.
crazy.
It's super crowded. It's going to be very crowded.
And it's not just the
I
exhibit floor.
Go ahead.
It's like restrooms, ATM machines,
Yeah,
Starbucks, like all
yeah,
the surrounding restaurants. Like you're waiting in line for everything because there's just tons of people.
yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about last year, and we know it's going to be different from last year because uh, just numbers wise, there were fewer attendees last year. Uh, this
Did they
year's,
say did they say what
yeah,
capacity it was reduced by last year?
I don't think we ever got an official count. From what I'm hearing, people were saying it felt like about 20% less people. That sounds about right to me. Sounds
20%
about right.
less.
Yeah.
I mean, it still felt really crowded. I mean, if when that
Hmm.
20% comes back, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be significantly different. Like it's just going to still be crowded.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll still be crowded. It will be, yeah, it'll be wall to wall people. No question.
So with that in mind, like is there any notable panels that you've already highlighted in your programming book?
Yeah, I've kind of taken down some panels that I wouldn't mind checking out. And there were a select few that I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna really make an effort to go to these. So on Thursday, there's gonna be a Beetlejuice 35th anniversary panel. So that sounds pretty cool. I don't think, Michael Keaton or Tim Burton or Winona Ryder are going to be there or anything like that. But
Maybe Jenna
um,
Ortega?
hey, you don't know. Who knows? Yeah, that's another thing about Comic Con. You never know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
Maybe Michael Keaton will have a surprise appearance. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprise appearances. Do
Yeah.
you remember were there any notable surprise appearances that come to top of mind when you think of Comic-Con?
There was one. I mean, technically, it wasn't an appearance because it wasn't there in person. But this was back when Nerd HQ was a thing. But there was a Joss Whedon panel, and it's pretty cool because a lot of the actors who've worked with Joss Whedon in the past were on the panel. But Joss Whedon himself was not there because I guess he had some sort of leg injury, so he was at home. So it was already like announced that like, oh, Joss isn't going to be showing up. So sorry, but here are a lot of cool actors he's worked with. But then there's a surprise where right in the middle of the panel, they stopped the panel and they brought up this big screen, and then like Joss like Skyped in and he joined the panel virtually. So that was a pretty cool surprise. How about
Yeah,
you? Do you have anything like surprise guests, anything like that?
I have a few that pop up that come to mind. I think one of the first ones where I realized, whoa, this is a big deal. Like this Hollywood is definitely here was after I think Pirates of the Caribbean came out and they were promoting the second one, and this was completely unannounced. Like Johnny Depp like walked out and
Oh, right. I heard about that.
yeah, he came out, walked on stage, just kind of like waved to everybody, and then he was out. Like he didn't say a
Hmm.
word. But the
Yeah.
crowd went wild.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember the group of girls that were behind me, they were like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna cry." And then
Yeah.
another one was when Top Gun Maverick was just announced. And were we in Hall H together?
I wasn't in
Uh
Hall H for that one.
oh man, okay. And then like Tom Cruise comes out
Oh,
completely
wow.
unannounced. And he basically introduces the trailer. This was the first trailer that came out for Top Gun Maverick. And yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah. Amazing. That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, that's the Hollywood factor of SDCC. Something maybe not as prevalent this year, but yeah, there are always surprises. That's part of the fun, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, like we've been saying, it's hard to expect what's going to happen. But are there any things you're looking forward to, like specifically for this year's con?
Anything specifically? Not I actually have no expectations. I think this was going to be the year where I was going to wait for the craziness of a Marvel panel for Hall H, but as they announced, Marvel is not going to have a Hall H panel this year.
Yep.
Um, but with that in mind, there's still like the recurring sort of traditional things you go to, like Kevin Smith, he's like the ambassador of Hall H. Like we always go to his panel every year.
Mm-hmm.
And the panels for like all the Cartoon Network stuff, a lot of animated shows that we watch, we go to a lot of those panels. So that's what we're really looking forward to as well.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of animation, just finishing my thoughts on my little programming review. On Friday, there's going to be a Rick and Morty 10th anniversary panel.
Oh, I was
And
just reading up on that. I can't believe it's been 10 years already.
yeah, I know. That's wild. I remember when Dan Harmon first promoted it at Comic-Con. And yeah, 10 years ago. It's really wild.
Yeah, you got to meet Dan Harmon, right? Didn't you like bump into
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah. He was a nice guy. And I was excited to meet him for Community at the time. But he's gone on to do Rick and Morty, which has become a big hit for him. So yeah, I do want to check out that panel also. Friday Indigo Ballroom. And then in the next couple of days, we should see the Saturday and Sunday programming too. So I am
Yeah.
curious to see that.
I'm really curious to see what's coming out too. Like it's gonna be different. But it's gonna be fun. Have you been looking at any of the offsite stuff? That's the thing that's been happening. That's been a popular thing for the last handful of years, or all the offsites,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much stuff happening inside the convention center that it spills out into the gas lamp area and the surrounding parts of the convention center. Are there any offsites that you're looking at?
Yeah, I've been monitoring the offsite stuff kind of casually. Um, and there's some stuff I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, there's the Jurassic Park offsite. That sounds pretty awesome. Um, though
I
we
think we
we
were all
tried to get
unsuccessful,
yeah,
yeah,
we
trying to get
tried to get
tickets.
reservations for that and failed. So it looks like to go, we would have to go in the standby line, which
Yeah,
is always a bit of an adventure. It can be a long wait.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the thing with offsites. They unless you have like a ticket or a reservation ahead of time, you're looking at a real long wait. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do the long, long waits this time around.
yeah. The wait list though for this one looks a little promising because the location of this offsite, it's pretty far. Like I think you're
Mm.
walking about a mile to get to. And
Oh, okay.
considering like the San Diego heat, I mean, it's not like hot, hot. It's not like East
Yeah.
Coast hot, but it's like, SoCal hot.
Yeah.
Generally, I feel like the further it is, the more reluctant people are to go.
There you go.
And I
There
say
you
that with
go.
experience because of the Westworld experience that we were
Hmm.
able to attend back in, geez, when was that? 2017.
Mm.
It was just off the heels of season one of Westworld, and that was a hot offsite.
Yeah, I remember that.
You and I waited in line in the morning to get tickets to sign
Yeah.
up, right? And we were about what, 50 in line hours before they opened up
Oh yeah.
registration.
This was early. I mean, we got
Yeah.
there with maybe 6 a.m. or something.
Yeah, yeah. And you
Yeah.
just so happened to stumble upon it, which is crazy.
Oh,
It,
right. I remember
it
that.
was unannounced. There was no online registration. You just had to find it, or you had to communicate
Yeah.
with people on social media.
Yeah.
And then as the hours got closer to them opening registration, remember how people were just starting to sink into line, and us being like about 50 in line started to get closer to like 100, and there was like 100-person cap on this thing.
Hmm.
So long story short, we ended up getting waitlisted.
Right.
I think some of us just took off because it just didn't seem hopeful at all.
Yeah.
And so when I found out where this was, it was at the hotel. I think it's the Kimpton now.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was like, dude, this is a mile away. This is a bit of a walk.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I were like, all right, let's stick with it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And when we got there to check on like our wait list situation, and there was no guarantee. We were waiting for I think a party of like 6 or 8 people. It was a really small group of people. And as the time for the session to start was counting down, no one was showing up. And
Mm.
actually, while we were waiting in line in the lobby, we did see Bran from Game of Thrones, uh, Mormont from Game of Thrones. Yeah, we saw a bunch of like Game of Thrones
Yeah.
actors actually while we were waiting. So we're like, oh, cool, this is like already worth it.
Nice.
But yeah, the party that was supposed to be there didn't even show up. So my wife
Yeah.
and I actually had our own experience, which was meant to be for about 6 to 8 people. So it was basically
Mm.
our own experience, and it was it was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is like a war of attrition, right? Who's gonna give up first?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I've noticed that stuff that's further out, people tend to not go to as much. So that's a good tip, proximity. Keep that in
yeah,
mind.
yeah. So this Jurassic Park deal, I think if we want to do this, we might have a fair shot at it.
Okay, that's a good tip there, considering the location. Oh, speaking of off sites and location, technically the Comic-Con museum is an off-site, and I did go to the Comic-Con museum last year, and I do want to go back this year. It was really great, and yeah, there are a couple exhibits that I'm interested in checking out there. There's a Stan Lee exhibit and a Cowboy Bebop exhibit. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, they look really cool. So
that's
yeah.
trippy that there's a Comic Con museum. I feel like we've been living the Comic Con museum because we've
Yeah.
been attending for so long.
Yes, yes. Uh, you know, uh, I will say this. I kind of had that thought before I went, but after I went last year, I do think there's like added value. It's almost like, oh, if I have a badge, why would I bother going there? Isn't that for people who like don't have a badge or aren't going to Comic-Con or whatever? But it's really great that it's a beautiful museum, and they put their exhibits together really well. So I would say it's worth trying out. It is kind of far though, so like I have a car, so like basically like the afternoon of preview night, I'm planning to swing by and then go to preview night afterward, basically.
Oh,
Something like that. Um,
hey,
so
maybe
yeah.
I'll join you.
Hey,
Although
yeah,
I don't have preview night this year, um, which is okay.
yeah,
I'm gonna just yeah, dig my heels in and just get my bearings on things on what the offsites are gonna look like. That's what I think I'm gonna do.
right on.
But hey,
Yeah,
maybe we'll join you for that museum.
I am happy to carpool, swing by your hotel and carpool on over.
Hey, is there any comic stuff you're excited to venture into at Comic Con this year?
Well, I am definitely planning on doing comics shopping. Like, um, I'm definitely bringing my cash and gonna
And
be
preview
hit.
night's like your night, right? That's the shopping night for
Yeah,
comics for
yeah.
you.
Like, as you were alluding to earlier, preview night is not a guarantee. But when I get it, that's the night I want to do most, if not all, my comic shopping.
Nice.
Get that out of the way. But yeah, that's what I'm planning to do that night, and probably all throughout the con, I'll be swinging by the vintage comics area and singing, seeing what's what.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a comics list that you're looking to fulfill, or are you like, okay, I have a general idea? Like, are you? I have I'm imagining you have like an eye out for obviously like key books, right?
Yeah, key books. I have a list. It's not like completely set in stone, like I will only buy off this list type thing. But yeah, no, I have some notes, just like anything. I've prepared some stuff to keep in mind and stuff to look out for, that sort of thing.
Right on.
I am ready. I'm ready to to hit the comics booths hard.
I can't wait to see what your haul's gonna look like after preview night.
Yeah. Hey, like anything with SDCC, it's part of the fun, just to see what the vendors bring, what prices they set, and what looks good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Preview night I usually reserve for just scoping out the floor, and then a lot of like the toy retailers like Mattel, Hasbro, Lego, all those guys, like they have their exclusives. And preview night is usually a good night to get a crack at it because the attendance on preview night is significantly less than it would be like on a Friday, especially a Saturday.
Right, right. Yeah.
I think Mattel is the booth that I would like normally go to. Um, I think that's where I've gone consistently every year. Although last year, the booth I waited for was HBO Max,
Mm.
and I waited in line for, man, probably a good hour or so. And what I was hearing from the line was the giveaways that we're giving. They sounded awesome,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a what you call it? It was a spinning wheel of a random giveaway.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and like the Batman had just come out, like Harley Quinn series, the new season was being promoted, and I was hoping to get something that I was really interested in getting, and ended up walking away with I think like a tote bag and a poster of a show I've never watched. So I was
Yeah.
a little disappointed.
Yeah,
And I learned my lesson. If I don't know what I'm going to be getting, probably move on.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
you never know, right? You never
but
know what's gonna happen.
but I did walk away with making some friends in line who turns out one of them works for, I forget the name of the publishing company, but they're the publishing company that did the Shadow and Bone series, which my wife is really into, and she got me into it. And she was actually able to give us some really cool like insight on like the Netflix show and what was going to be coming up with like the book series. So there was a bit of a silver lining there.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. See, one of those things that you never know who you're going to run into, who you're going to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something pretty unique about SDCC. The people you're in line with are often people like in the industry. At your typical con, it's just, fans like us, right? And that's great. It's great interacting with fellow fans, but um, more than any other convention with SDCC, there are comics people and TV people and movie people just kind of amongst us, right?
Yeah. It is cool like running into them because it's like, they're just as excited for Comic Con as we
Yeah,
are. I mean,
yeah.
they're there, for the most part, they're there to work. So like they want to have some fun too, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. They're there to work, but the phenomenon of San Diego Comic-Con is is so like appealing and great that everyone's excited. Just everyone is like hella stoked, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that brings to mind um one of the things I'm most looking forward to, and that's just kind of taking it in. I remember last year I had some moments where I just kind of took a beat, you know, sat on sat on the sidewalk and just kind of like took in the
Soak it
awesomeness.
all in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly with me, like I hadn't gone in 5 years. Yeah, 2017 was the last one I had gone to prior to last year. And we had COVID, and just to be there and have this back was pretty special, so I'm going to be doing the same this time around, just appreciating it. I think,
I love telling
go
people the
ahead.
story of when I went to Comic-Con and I had no tickets for Comic-Con. I had no
Hmm.
tickets, I
Hmm.
had no hotel, and I was just like, I'm just gonna fly in and fly out. If I have no place to sleep, I'm gonna just sleep where everyone's camping out, where everyone is during Hall H. And everything just seemed to have worked out that year. What year was this? I think it was like 2000, oh man, like 2012 or 2013. It
Hmm.
was the year, well, here was the primary drive as to why I did that, was because that was the year they were going to fly in all of the different Batmobiles from all the different movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to be there. I need to see these Batmobiles like up close and personal. And that's the only reason why I'm going to go there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it worked out, man. I ended up connecting with some buddies that were like, hey, we got an extra place for you to like sleep. And I'm like, cool, man. I'll sleep in the bathtub if I need to.
Nice. Yeah.
And it turned out that like two of the guys that were there, they were also they were also working, and so they weren't making use of their badge, and they're like, hey, if you want to borrow our badge, you go on the convention floor, go for it. And
Dang.
and it was a blast. And it was also the same year where they had a stage on the outside area of where the Hilton is.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah, and it was basically everyone from Hall H and Ballroom 20 being funneled to the stage for like a Q&A, and like just, just being present.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone knew about it. So I was like front row. I was high-fiving the celebrities that were walking by.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and it was a blast. And the night ended with, I'm a big fan of Kirby Crackle. He's like this nerd rock band um that I love to listen to. I got to watch a live like concert, and the night ended with Kevin Smith interviewing the late great Kevin Conroy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was a blast, man. I wasn't supposed to be there, and I went, and it was awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was 2012. 2012.
2012.
That was my first year at SDCC.
Oh man, was that your first
Yeah.
year? Really?
Yeah, it was my
Oh,
first
wow.
year. And the stuff you mentioned was great for me because while I did have a badge, it was only a Sunday badge. So I was relying on a lot of this offsite stuff. So I discovered that stage also. I was like, holy shit, this is just free for anybody. Just random people can just go. And I remember just hanging out there, and then like Kevin Bacon walks on stage and he like performs. He's like in a band, I guess. And I'm like, wait, holy
I
shit, that's
remember
Kevin
that.
Bacon, right?
Isn't that
Yeah.
awesome?
Yeah. It was great. And yeah, definitely a lot of fond memories. Um,
I don't know. I'm curious
yeah,
how that stage would fare today, because yeah, you didn't need a ticket to be out on that lawn. Like anyone could
yeah,
have been out there.
yeah.
And I bet you if that was, and that only happened that one year. And I bet
Hmm.
you if that became a recurring thing, that lawn would be crazy.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like they had that stage there, and then they had the Batmobiles like basically right next to it. So it was
So
all this
awesome.
like amazing shit right there that you did not need a Comic-Con badge for. So yeah, I think we kind of lucked out.
You know who I ended up meeting too by the Batmobiles? I met, if you watch The Big Bang Theory, the guy that plays Rajesh Kutherpally,
Oh
I met that
yeah,
guy.
no
And
way.
the guy, I forget the actor's name, but he plays the geologist on The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I met him as well. And it
Nice.
was so fun, man. Such great memories of that year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, with those Batmobiles, oh man, in retrospect, that was pretty amazing because there were like no lines. I remember just
No lines.
walking around like just taking pictures super close up and um yeah, no big deal. I would imagine if they had
Yeah.
something like that like today, it would just be like insanely crowded.
And you were only separated from the Batmobiles by a rope, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm gonna touch this Batmobile just to say I touched it, because who's
Yeah.
gonna stop me?
Exactly.
Yeah. So awesome.
All right. Yeah. So I think yeah, the ongoing message here is unexpected, awesome shit happens at SDCC all the time. So
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
hallelujah.
speaking of Batman, by the way, have you heard of this? The Batman Forever Schumacher cut.
Mm.
Have you heard of this?
No, I have not.
So it sounds like Kevin Smith was able to get a hold of a um the not the theatrical version that came out that we all saw, but a Schumacher cut that was just never released. And somehow Kevin Smith got a hold of it and had a private screening with a select group of people. I think it was like July 1st. And they were able to watch, Joel Schumacher's true vision of what Batman Forever was supposed to be.
Oh
And
shit.
apparently there was like 37 minutes of like unreleased footage.
Whoa.
Um, and so now with the buzz of it being out there, a lot of people are asking like, hey, when are we going to get this cut?
Right.
I mean, coming off the heels of like, the Snyder cut. I feel like that's been a thing. Like, when's the Snyder cut of whatever going to be released?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
popular. Man, I gotta say, I'd be really excited to see this movie. I mean, not my favorite Batman movie. I mean, everything after Tim Burton, not my favorite. Um, but I would like to see what his true intentions of that film was, other than the whole term of making the movie toyetic. You know what that is,
Right.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Making the movie for the sake of just selling toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if it steers away from that and and it's more in line with what Tim Burton delivered to us.
Hmm. Release the Schumacher cut.
You got to see the
It
Schumacher
might it
cut,
might
man.
be a thing. Yeah. I'm super curious. Like, yeah, it wasn't the best Batman movie, but maybe this other cut is a big improvement, and that is a pretty tantalizing prospect, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we might have to go ask our buddy Kevin Smith at Comic-Con about this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get his thoughts.
Or see if there's some bootlegger out there that has it.
Right.
We got to see it.
Someone's got it. Someone has to have it.
Hey, I don't know if we talked about this in our last Flash get together, but did we
Yeah.
talk about James Gunn casting Superman and Lois Lane for his Superman movie?
I don't know if we did. We may have talked like off mic about it, but
Okay.
yeah, that's recent big,
Yeah,
comic
huge
booky
news.
news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not super familiar with the actors David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan.
Brosnahan, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't watch the what's that show she's on Hulu?
Oh yeah, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great in that. So I was pretty happy to hear that she's the new Lois. But with James Gunn behind the wheel here, yeah, it could be really awesome.
So I think the question has been going around like what age are they going to be capturing Superman at? And
Hmm.
James Gunn responded with he's gonna be the same age as David, the actor that's going to be playing Superman. And that guy
Okay,
is I think
okay,
he's just about to turn 30. So we're gonna
okay.
see Superman at that age.
A pretty young Superman. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, have they addressed like the time period it takes place in?
I don't know. That's a good question. It does feel like it's going to be modeled after All-Star Superman, though, which is going to be really interesting. It's a
Hmm.
great story. A 12 issue run from I believe it was Frank Quietly. Um, who else was on that book? I can't. It's been so long since I read that book. But if that's the story it's going to be modeled after, that's going to be interesting. Have you read All-Star Superman?
I haven't. No.
So it's basically the story of Superman that has because you know how he gathers his power from the sun, right? Like that's what charges him.
Yeah.
Like he's been overdosed with the power of sun, and he realizes that like he's like dying, and so he goes on this quest to sort of fulfill like fulfill his bucket list.
Mm,
Man, it's been
interesting.
so long since I read that book. I should
Yeah.
read it again. But it was a great story. Yeah, I think it was a critically acclaimed book. Um, But yeah, I think if that's what we're starting with, I think that might be a cool way to kick off Superman in this new
Yeah.
DC universe.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, we might be seeing promotion for that at next year's SDCC. I could see that. James
Yeah,
Gunn rolling out the previews and whatnot.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, we'll see. All right. So we're going to keep it tight. Any final thoughts about SDCC 2023 or anything else at all?
Anything else at all? Hey, one thing I wanted to bring up. Are you a fan of The Office?
Um, I am maybe more so of the British version, but I have watched both.
So it's confirmed that The Office is in the DC universe.
What? No way.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
how?
So there's an issue of Nightwing. It just came out. It's issue 105, and it's a cool book actually. It's like a first person like perspective from Nightwing, Nightwing 105. And the entire story is from his perspective. So you're literally looking through his eyes and what he's seeing. And the only time you ever see him is when he sees a reflection of himself or something like that.
Hmm.
But there's a part in the book where he crashes through a building and we see all the familiar faces of everyone from The Office in this book. It's actually it's really awesome. If you haven't read it, I recommend checking it out just for that, even if you're not a Nightwing fan. I'm a big Nightwing fan, but I thought that was really
Yeah,
cool.
that's crazy. Talk about universes colliding.
Yeah.
That is something I would not have expected.
Yeah, I ended up like rewatching The Office during the pandemic because it gave me this sort of sense of being in an office.
Okay,
There was like
right.
this weird comforting feeling about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was nice. I think it helped me get through the pandemic, and seeing them reemerge in Nightwing 105,
Yeah.
I thought was a nice way to see them.
That's funny. Yeah, I think we all did some stuff during the pandemic years that, is a little bit eyebrow raising, but whatever we needed to do to get through it, all good. No judgment.
And then the last thing I wanted to bring up,
Yeah.
have you heard anything about Deadpool 3?
Very little other than, like the Hugh Jackman stuff, but well, what's the latest there?
How would you like to see Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner reprise their roles as Daredevil?
What?
I think that's hitting the rumor mill.
Oh
I
yeah.
think Jennifer Garner actually confirmed that she's going to be in it. If not, she's open to it,
Okay.
which I think is very fitting for Daredevil.
Yeah.
And considering all the multiverse stuff that's being thrown in our faces, it makes sense. Like, why not
Yeah.
bring those guys back?
Yeah. Yeah, if there was a Marvel movie to do some crazy shit like this, Deadpool, right? That fits. That tracks, right? So why not? Why not indeed?
Yeah.
All right. With that, we can wrap up the episode. This is farewell from Henry and Ranier.